Hello and welcome to Ask the Crown. I'm Stephanie McGrain, and joining me today I have Kyle Haggerty of Haggerty and Associates. Welcome, Kyle.
Hello, Stephanie.
So glad to have you joining us.
I'm excited to be here.
Oh, so glad to have you. And I know you have quite a range of systems that you coach for. You coach many different clients on the local, state, national, and even international level. You have a very impressive list of winners, including Miss America 2010, Caressa Cameron.
Right.
Very exciting. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
What was it like to coach Caressa to the Miss America title?
That's kind of an interesting story. I'll give you the Cliff Note version of it. I met Caressa when she was 18 years old. And when I first saw her, I didn't know her. And she was performing at a local pageant, the Miss Fredericksburg County Fair pageant. I think it was a county fair pageant. And I took one look at her, and I knew immediately that this girl had what it took to be Miss America. Long story short, her mother approached me, and I coached her all the way through her Miss America career, from when she got second runner-up at 18 years old at Miss Virginia, trying 3 more times, and on her 4th try, capturing the crown of Miss Virginia. I told Caressa from the very beginning, her hard part was not winning Miss America, it was winning Miss Virginia. Miss Virginia is extremely competitive. And so when she won Miss Virginia, when I cried, when I watched her, and I wasn't even actually there, I was teaching a modeling seminar in St. Louis, and I watched it in my hotel room online. And when I cried, it wasn't because she won Miss Virginia, because I always felt she was good enough to win Miss Virginia. I knew I had the next Miss America.
Oh my goodness.
She's very dedicated. She's very driven. I think sometimes her drive is mistaken. But to achieve something like Miss America or Miss USA or Miss United States, I actually have a few young ladies that have won the national titles in the Miss United States system as well. You have to be driven. You have to strive for excellence and to settle for nothing less.
That's incredible that you two connected. And when you see people, can you kind of tell right off the bat if they have the it factor, if they have what it takes? Can you kind of see that in people?
Oh, absolutely. What I always say is that you don't have to have all the goods. You don't necessarily have to be so talented or look a certain way or have a certain kind of body initially. The most important thing is that you have to have the drive, the ambition, and the work ethic, because all those other things can be worked on. If I have a girl that wants to go to Miss America and make it to the national stage, we can work on her talent. We can develop her platform. We can take care of her fitness. But if the drive and the dedication isn't there, it doesn't matter how pretty she is. It doesn't matter how talented she is, because at the end of the day, she's not going to work for it. And so that's what I look for. I look for drive and determination. Now, obviously, if we don't have a swimsuit problem, that's a good thing. Obviously, if they've been dancing since the age of 5, that's a good thing. If they've been doing community service before they actually thought about doing a pageant, that's a good thing. But even if they have not done that and they're starting from ground zero, it's all about work ethic. And for me as a coach, when a girl is already kind of ready-made, that's great. It makes my job easy. But what really thrills me is when I can take a girl who's never done it before, who do not know what she's doing, and the next thing I know, she's on the Miss America stage. I have had that happen before.
It sounds like you're an amazing coach.
Thank you.
What is it that sets you apart from all the other coaches in the business?
Mm-hmm. Well, I am a full-service national, international level coach. Most people, and this is just Kyle's opinion, so no one takes offense by this, please. Most people who call themselves coaches, in my opinion, are what I call specialists, where they're really good in modeling, or they're really good in interview, or they're really good in something, but they don't coach everything. I've only met 3 other people across the country like myself that I feel is a full-service coach. So a young lady, and I also coach in the men's pageants, and I've also won male national titles too, so I know what it is to compete nationally. But when I meet with someone, I can consult their interview, their platform, their talent, their interview, every single hair, makeup, wardrobe. And of course I have a team of people that work with me, but they come to me and it's a one-stop shop. And I don't like to say that I am better than anyone else. What I like to say is that I'm extremely well-rounded and well-qualified to consult in every single area. You know, it's really kind of interesting. A man that I admire, a lot of people know him, his name is Don Baker. And he is a communication and an interview specialist. And I think that he is the best at what he does. I think he's outstanding. And he makes it very clear, I am not a pageant coach. I am a communication specialist. I will teach you how to be, and I quote him, open and outward and communicate with people. And so he knows where his strengths are, and he is the very best at it. And there are some people that are very good at one thing, but they want to call themselves a pageant coach, and they're really not total. And so to me, if you want to be a pageant coach and really package a girl and mold her, you must be total. So I think that's what sets me apart from many.
I love that, and that's good to know for all of the viewers watching that you are a full-service coach. You can do it all. And you mentioned that you also competed, so tell us about some of the titles that you won.
Well, I'm a former Mr. USA. I won that in 2002. I'm a former Mr. Black America. I won that in 2009. I dance for talent. I've danced all my life. I was also a competitive cheerleader many years ago. I've had the opportunity to tour nationally and do a lot of things. Obviously, the men's pageants are not as big as the women's pageants, but they're very competitive. And the biggest difference, people ask me, what is the biggest difference between the men's pageants and the women's pageants? In the women's pageants, you know, you put on a great gown and hair and makeup, and you throw your hair and you smile pretty, and that gets you halfway through it. In the men's pageants, you have nothing to hide behind. When you're in swimsuit, you know, I work very hard to have the body that I do. We don't have pads and makeup and all that kind of stuff to camouflage anything.
Oh, sure, right.
You know, you either have it or you don't. And that is my cell phone. I need to turn that off. Excuse me about that.
No problem at all.
You know, you don't have anything to hide behind. So, you know, with that being said, it's a lot of fun. I enjoy it, and it keeps me young because now that I'm an old man, in comparison to some of these other guys, it keeps me fit and trim and keeps my game on. But the most important thing is that my girls can never say, Kyle, you don't understand. Because trust me, I understand. So.
See, I love that. You're out there, you're competing, so you know what your clients are going through.
Oh, yeah.
And congratulations to you on your amazing titles.
Thank you.
And I know you've done a lot with modeling and dancing and competing as well. And you also conduct 2 highly noted workshops, one of which is called Pageant 101.
Yes.
What every parent needs to know about pageants.
Oh,
so
yeah.
Can you tell us, what do you cover in that workshop? And what do parents really need to know about pageantry?
Well, you know, a lot of times, you know, people get into pageants and then they drop out because they realize that it is expensive, or they think that it's fixed or it's rigged, or they just don't understand it. And sometimes they don't understand why their daughters or their sons or nieces and nephews, what have you, would want to compete in any type of pageant or modeling competition. So in this workshop, the first thing that I do is I explain what the categories are. You know, exactly what is talent, what is high fashion, what is sportswear, what is pro-am, what is interview, what is platform. You know, at the basic level, these are the categories in the pageant. The next thing that I talk about, which is very important, and I think that every parent should know this, they need to understand the differences between systems. A lot of times they'll go into a pageant, and I'll give you a prime example. You'll have a young lady who is big in her church and doing community service, and she sings in the choir, you know, and she is really more just about the realism of who she is and a little bit more natural. I'm not going to send her to Universal Miss, which is a pro-am pageant. I'm not going to send her to Sunburst. You know, if she's a teenager, I may not send her to USA because that's a little bit more of a model glitz kind of. I always say USA is the Victoria's Secrets of pageants. Not a bad thing. I love it, you know, but that's just the style of pageant that it is. You know, Miss America, Cinderella pageants, National American Miss, you know, those are the pageants that are a little bit more natural. You know, it's a little bit more about community service, about your platform and who you are as a person, not just as a potential celebrity or performer or that kind of thing. So I think it's very important that you pick the right pageant. If you're looking for college scholarship or for school scholarship, that's one set of pageants. You know, if you're looking for getting into the modeling and entertainment industry, that's another style of pageants. If you're doing it just for personal development and for your daughter to get more self-confidence, that's a different kind of pageant. So I educate these parents on what pageant is right for your daughter and to go about doing it. The third thing, and if I'm rambling, you could just shut me up.
Oh, gosh, no, this is great information.
The third thing, which I think is very important, is that I talk to these parents on how to deal with directors. A lot of times, parents don't know that you are a representation of your kid. And in many cases, if the parent is hard to deal with, the director is not going to want to deal with your kid because they got to deal with you.
Right.
So, don't call that director at midnight if you don't have a personal relationship with them. Don't go to the director or to a judge and go, why didn't my kid win 10 minutes after crowning? You don't do that. Read the application thoroughly so you're not asking the director about entry fees when it's right there in front of you if you would have read the book, the entry book. And so it's very important that you establish a positive but yet professional relationship with a director, because at the end of the day, we know in pageants people talk.
Right, they do. Yes, they do.
And in this day of the ballot, and for people who don't know what the ballot is, most pageants these days, once you get to the top 5, regardless of how you get there, they are no longer awarding points. They're ranking you in the order that they want you to place. And if they feel that you are not manageable, you're not marketable, you're not approachable, or even if there's a parent issue, you can get balloted down. And so even though you may be the best person in the pageant, you'll get first or second runner-up and will not win, not because you're not good, but because of everything else around you is not positive, especially in this day of the ballot. So remember that. Your politics matters.
Love it.
It really does. And I talk about the politics in there. And then the final thing, and I'll tie up this parent thing, is I talk about budget.
Yes.
Talk about what it costs to be successful, because you have one of two things. You have parents not making the right investment, so they're wasting money, or you have parents who are successful that feeling that throwing money at something that they would, that their daughter should win because they threw money at it. It's not about that. I don't care if the gown is $5,000. I don't care if the gown is $50. Is it the right gown for your daughter? I've had girls win in gowns from the Salvation Army. When it's a single mother, not a lot of money. You do what you need to do with what you can afford and you make it work. And I talk about that too. I would venture to say my Pageant 101, my parent workshop is the best workshop that I do because it sets people up for success.
It sounds like it does. And you know what? My goodness, not even for people just getting started in pageants, but I think everybody can benefit from that. How many times do we see competitors and systems that aren't right for them, or gowns spending thousands and thousands and it's not the right gown? So I think everyone can benefit from the great advice you give.
Can I give one more example, because this is
absolutely
the one that I see this more than anything else. I see parents make mistakes. I see contestants when they're no longer a teenager and they're an adult, paying for their own pageantry. That normally happens around 24, 25, when they make that switch.
Yes.
The biggest mistake that I see girls make, and I had this happen not too long ago, a girl will go out and based on affordability will buy, let's say, a $300 gown, which is, I don't care how much it costs if it's the right gown. And then she goes to a pageant and she doesn't win. So then she feels that she has the right gown, so she goes out and buys another $300 gown. And then she does another pageant, and then she doesn't win. And so then she does it a third time. So then when I say to her, well, you just spent $1,000 on 3 gowns. You should have just spent the $1,000 one time, once, buy the right gown, and then you would have won your pageant.
Exactly. That's right.
And that's the biggest mistake that I see. And I'm talking about even girls that's been competing a while making this mistake. So it's not just you girls. So advice number 1, do it right the first time, so then you don't have to worry about it all again. Because if you get your competition package right the first time, it will last you 18 months.
That is fabulous. Now, I have another question for you, talking about gown. Let's say you get a gown, it's great, it's perfect, it works for you. Is that something that you can continue to keep wearing if you win in it? I mean, is it okay to wear it again, to be seen in it, or would you get a new gown?
Okay, well, my policy with competition, and I refer to that as your competition package, which is your swimsuit, sportswear, casual wear, gown, interview dress, whatever. If you're competing at the local and state level, if you're new, Be real careful to not overspend. You should be spending based on your experience. Okay, so if you've never done a pageant before, don't have your parents spending $5,000 on your wardrobe. Don't do it. Okay.
Right.
In most cases, from your local to your state pageant, you upgrade for your state pageant. Okay, so you compete in local pageants, let's say 8 or 9 months, you qualify for state, yay, and then you upgrade your package to state. That state pageant, if you do not win the state pageant, that is now your local level package.
Okay.
And then you compete that during the local season, and then you upgrade for the next state pageant. So therefore, each package lasts you 18 months. But that's by buying the right thing the first time, so you don't have to keep buying over and over again.
Exactly. Great advice. Great advice. Definitely. And now let me ask you this. You conduct that workshop. You also conduct another workshop called From Pageant Stage to Runway. But what are some tips you give your clients there, kind of making the transition from the world of pageantry to the world of modeling?
Well, here's the thing. The misconception that people have about the modeling industry versus the pageant industry, whatever, is that the P word is a bad word in modeling. If you're a pageant girl, you can't do modeling, or they don't want to know you did pageants. That's not necessarily accurate, okay? Because the agents that I've spoke with, and actually I am now involved with the World Championships of the Performing Arts, and that's an international competition that includes models. So I'll tell you a little bit about that later. But the one thing that they realize with pageant girls, they have a good work ethic. If they're successful, they have a good work ethic. Their grooming is always in order, and they know how to walk a runway and walk the stage. The problem that they mostly have with pageant girls is that they feel that sometimes there's an attitude problem or a sense of entitlement. Let me give you the major example with that, and that's with any pageant girl. When you're in a pageant, it's all about you, in the sense of you wear a gown that suits you, you do your hair and makeup the way it suits you, and you present the best sense of you to the judges. In modeling, it's the reverse. In modeling, you are a canvas. So whatever the designer wants you to wear, whatever they want you to say, whatever they want you to model, however you do your hair and makeup, you have nothing to say. You are a blank canvas, and they're making you what they want you to be. And a lot of pageant girls can't make that transition because they're used to it being all about them. I had a girl going on a modeling job about 3 weeks ago, went on the set, they did everything they wanted to do to her. She looked in the mirror, hated it, and washed it off.
Oh, no, did she?
And they asked her to go home, and then I got a phone call.
Right.
Okay? So that is the biggest thing. So when you are trying to transition from pageants to modeling, it's okay to say that you've done pageants, because if you look at a lot of the countries outside the United States, the girls that they send to Miss Universe are their professional models.
Okay, sure.
We send our pageant girls, they send their professional models, if you really look at Miss Universe. So it's okay to say that you're in a pageant, but you need to highlight your attributes and what you learn and the skills you have, not the crowns that you have won. They can care less about a crown. They want to know that you're a singer, you're an actress, you're a dancer, you're a fitness model. You've done runway, you've done commercial, you've done acting. They want to know all of the attributes that you got through pageants, not necessarily that I'm Miss Illinois, Miss Virginia, National American Miss Cinderella. They don't care about the titles. They care about the attributes. And I talk about how to market those attributes and also how to use them and convert them from pageants to modeling.
That is so good to know, because I have heard, oh, don't mention pageantry, don't mention, they don't want to hear that you're in pageants.
Oh, that's
so I love hearing your advice on that.
That's bunk. That's bull. But here's the thing. They don't care about your crowns, but they care about your experience. And they know that pageant girls, especially if you have a good resume, you come in, you know how to do your makeup, you know how to do your hair. In most cases, your body is in order. In most cases, because you've competed in swimsuit, there are no body problems, so they can fit clothes on you. And it also depends on if you're doing, a lot of pageant girls are tall, some are not. If you're under 5'7", if you're 5'7" or under, you're doing print and commercial modeling. If you're 5'8" or older, you can do that as well as do fashion. Okay, most pageant girls know how to pose in front of a camera. With pageant girls, there's not a big learning curve. It's more attitudinal than it is what you've done. So you must highlight your experience and what you bring to the table.
Now, can anyone make that transition? Or do you think it's dependent upon height, age, size? if you have the look, or I mean, is it just kind of open? You would recommend, you know, anyone to try and make that transition from pageantry to modeling?
Oh, sure. Well, the one thing that I do with my clients that make that transition is that we have what I call a come to Jesus meeting. Okay, where, and that's not a bad thing, it's actually a good thing, where we sit down and we go, okay, this is what you can do if you want to be successful. You know, let's say that you've done pageants and now you're out of it and you're back to your regular body, because you got to remember, the body you have in the pageants and the body you carry every day is not the same thing.
Right.
So for you girls that stress when you pick up 8 pounds after you get done doing the pageant, don't sweat it. Just lose it before you get back on stage. I digress. Anyway, so, you know, what I always say is keep it real. If you are under 5'8", you are not doing fashion. I don't care how pretty you are. Now, the exception is Kate Moss. You know, there's always an exception. But at the end of the day, if you are not 5'8", I don't care how beautiful, how great your body is, and how good your skills are, you are not doing fashion, period. Understand that, okay? However, that doesn't mean you can't do commercial. That doesn't mean you can't do print. So that's how I'm going to train you and how I'm going to market to you. If you are 10 pounds overweight, you need to understand you're not doing print because the camera adds 10 pounds to you. You're not doing fashion unless you're a plus size model. And as a plus size model, you need to be taller than 5'9" to be successful. So then you're doing commercial and you're doing promotional work and you're doing spokesmodel and all that kind of thing. So anyone can do it, but you have to be placed properly. It's like picking the right pageant, or converting your skills to the pageant in what you're doing. I have girls that do NAM, they'll do Cinderella, they'll do USA, but we make the conversion, you know, when they're doing. So as far as modeling, you need to know where you can be most successful and then advocate yourself that way.
See, I love that. You care about your clients. You know, you're doing what's best for them and where they're going to be most successful. And I know how you had mentioned earlier, you know, if you have a client who maybe is really focused on a particular system, but maybe isn't quite what that system is looking for, you would direct them to a system that is a better fit.
Oh, well, sure. And, you know, here's the thing. I don't tell a girl specifically what you should do, because every girl has a different dream. Well, if a girl comes to me and let's say, and I had this happen not too long ago, she's big into her platform, she probably has about 10 pounds to lose. You know, she has a good figure, but she has about 10 pounds to lose. You know, she's a pretty girl, she's relatively new to pageants, and she comes to me and tells me that she wants to do Miss USA.
Yes.
I don't tell her that she can't do Miss USA. I tell her, okay, well, this is what you're going to spend in clothing. This is how many times you're going to have to hit the gym. This is the trainer you're going to need to get. This is how you're going to have to eat. And this is what your entry fee is going to be. Before you do Miss USA, you need to understand all of that. If she says, okay, this is what I want to do, I'm willing to spend it, I'm willing to work, I'm willing to diet, I'm willing to work out, I'm willing to do whatever, you know, if you need hair extensions, I don't want to hear it. You got to get it. You know, right. So if you're willing to do that, then we'll press forward with her dream. If I get the, oh, well, Kyle, I'm not sure about that, I'm going to go fine, then let's talk about your other options. But at the end of the day, it's the girl's decision. And my job, this is my big expression, and feel free to use it, is that the young lady or gentleman that's competing drives the truck. I am in the passenger seat navigating it.
I love that.
I firmly believe it. I do not drive the truck, because at the end of the day, I'm not writing the checks. I'm not the one on stage, and I'm not the one that have to live with it when it's over. I'm responsible for direction and making sure that we use premium gasoline in the car when it's time to go.
I love that. And yes, if it's okay with you, I will use that.
Please.
So do you feel like anyone can win a pageant as long as the desire is there? And like you said earlier, they work hard, the dedication, determination. Do you think anyone can win?
Sure. Actually, if you haven't picked it up,
I love it. Let's see that, yes.
Pick it up. It's Producing Winners, Your Pathway to the Crown. The first thing that I talk about, and the reason why I do this, is the first thing that I talk about, my big quote, anybody can win anything. Are you willing to do what it takes to win it?
Right.
Bottom line, I don't care who you are. I don't care where you're from. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how skinny you are. I don't care how tall you are. I don't care how short you are. Anybody can win anything. You know, I've seen girls that I've worked with that have entered a pageant, and have won it and sat there shocked like, oh my gosh, she won.
Right.
I have gone to a pageant where I knew my girl was clearly going to win, and it didn't happen. I had 4 girls competing in one pageant. I had 2 girls that were very experienced, very seasoned, and had won everything. I had in that same pageant, I had 2 other girls that were brand spanking new. When they announced that top 10, my 2 new girls made it, and my 2 very seasoned girls did not. I sat there shocked, and I had the first and second runner-up in that pageant. Absolutely shocked.
Why does that happen? I know we've all been to pageants, and sometimes we leave and we're like, what? What just happened? Why do you think that is?
Right. Well, first of all, again, living in the day of the ballot, strange things happen. I always say, and again, this is just my personal thing, more second runner-ups have won pageants than a little bit. And let me explain to you what I mean. Let's say that you have 2 girls that are clearly the best. And then you have another girl that's really good, but not quite as good as the 2 girls on top. At the very end, all these girls make the 5. So, you know, you have a judges panel. Half of the judges panel likes one girl, so they ballot her high and then ballot the other girl down. And then the other side of the judges like the girl that was, you know, the other girl and ballot the first girl down. And then you got this one girl who's like 3rd on the ballot all the way through. So because the 2 girls split, the one girl comes up the middle. And I give an example of that in my book. I had that happen to one of my girls. And I thought, and I hate to say this, I rarely call a pageant rigged. That's not in my vernacular to do that. But this girl at this particular pageant won swimsuit and talent and got first runner-up in this pageant. And I could not believe it. And the director was a very good friend of mine. And I said, you know something, I never thought I would see the day when you would do something not right. And to salvage our relationship, they showed me the ballot sheets. And that's exactly what happened. The judges split, and this girl who was second runner-up on every judge's ballot came up the middle. I put that example in my book so people can understand that. So when you're watching something like Miss USA, you know, which have been a ballot system forever, when you get a girl that, you know, that you go, well, yeah, she was good, but I thought this girl was better, in many cases, that's what happened.
Oh, so good to know. Mm-hmm. So good for people to be aware of that.
Yes.
And, you leave and you're scratching your head going, what? What happened? Right. So, right. Yeah. And many people...
The question that I always ask myself is, you know, I'll give you a prime example. You know, look at Miss USA this year. The new Miss USA is beautiful. But, you know, there are some people that were saying that Utah had it until she screwed up the question. I thought she was beautiful. Connecticut's beautiful. You know, I don't have a problem with her winning. You know, some people really like Illinois. A lot of people like Alabama. But, you know, when I watched, I was like, oh, Connecticut. Okay. You know. And then I thought to myself, was she good enough to win? She was good enough. You know, was she my first choice? That could be debated. But it's not like that she wasn't good enough. And so when you have judges that split, you know, a lot of people thought that Utah was the front runner. I would have to agree with that. But when she screwed up the final question, and by the way, let's talk about that final question before I get off there.
Yes.
You know, she was the front runner, supposedly. So what happens is that, okay, she has now not hit the mark. So now the judges are trying to find, okay, now who do I pick? Because obviously you can't crown her with the way that she answered that question. And so now everybody was on a different page, and the one girl who was just consistently good may not have been first on everyone's ballot wins the pageant. And that would have been Connecticut. I liked her. Pretty girl, nice body, nice gown, decent modeling. You know, she may not have been the front runner, but she was good.
Right. I can totally see that. And, you know, I'm with you. And I thought Utah had it until the answer. And what do you think about that? What do you think about that whole thing?
Okay, here's another quote that you could use for me.
Great.
Okay, let me tell you, I'm full of quotes. My girls get on me all the time, like, Kyle, do you ever run out of quotes? I do not. I do not. I always say you never win the pageant in on-stage question. You lose the pageant in on-stage question. You lose it there. For example, if a panel of judges really like you, if, you know, you don't have to knock the question out the ballpark, but as long as you don't take foot and insert in mouth, you'll probably win. I had a director tell me many years ago, she was a USA director, she's no longer a director for USA, And a particular girl won the pageant that was in my, well, I won't even say what state it was. Anyway, so this particular girl won, and, you know, she didn't answer the question really well. I mean, she didn't, like, bomb it horribly, but she clearly didn't answer it well. And she won the state pageant anyway. And I said to this director, how in the heck did that happen? And she says to me that she tells the judges, if she's clearly the best contestant, you know, good personality, very likable, pretty, nice wardrobe, you know, pretty much, you know, she's the best contestant, and she has a bad moment, again, not bombing it, but a bad moment in on-stage question, forgive it, we can fix it, we need to send her. And so that seems to be the general consensus that, you know, she doesn't have to be a PhD, you know, in on-stage question to win. She just can't take foot and insert in mouth. I have one other thing about on-stage question. I want to talk a little bit about how I train it, okay? Because when you look at a girl that I train, she rarely bombs it. The first thing you got to do, simply put, answer the question, answer it. Okay, a judge should not have to figure out what you're trying to say. If I ask you, what color is the sky? I don't want to hear, you know, when I woke up this morning and had my cup of coffee, I walked outside, sat down, smelled the fresh air, and when I looked up, oh my gosh, the sky was blue. I mean, you don't answer it that way because the judges is taking the first 15 seconds going, where is this going? No, what color is the sky? The sky is blue. I think it's a great color, and when I walk out in the morning and have my cup of coffee and I look at it, I think it's the most beautiful thing in the world. You answer the question first, and then you justify the answer and why you feel that way. And then also, too, your opinion is important, but make sure your opinion is relative to the question. May I give an example of that just to make this totally clear?
Please do.
Okay. A couple of years back, Carrie Prejean, Miss California, who was first runner-up to Miss North Carolina that year. Let's talk about her for a minute. When I tell you that girl was winning the pageant, she was clearly, without question, winning that pageant. The battle was for first runner-up, in my humble opinion. She got the question from Perez Hilton, whatever his name is, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, you know, what is he going to ask her? And he said, and I'm not quoting it, I'm just just stating the premise of what it was. Vermont legalized gay marriage. Should the rest of America do the same, or should the federal government do the same? Something like that. To me, that's a very fair, but also a very direct question. It's either yes, they should, or no, they shouldn't. It's not that hard. Well, by the time she went into saying that she's glad that she lives in America, that accepts this, that, and the other, and then she said, well, I don't mean to offend anyone. When you say I don't mean to offend anyone, what have you just done?
Exactly.
You offended. You offended. You know, and at the end of the day, the question was not how she felt about gay marriage. People are saying, well, that's why she lost the pageant. No, it's not, because at that point in time, now things are different now, but back then, 50% of America was for it, and 50% was against it or wasn't sure about it. You know, so that was not the issue. The issue is that she did not answer the question point blank, and then her attitude when not answering it did not help. And to prove even more so that it was because she did not answer the question, regardless of what the answer was, she did that and still got first runner-up, which tells me what?
Right.
They were right and ready to crown her.
Absolutely.
And they didn't, you know. So, you know, I feel bad for her because she could have easily said, no, I don't agree with it, you know, because I feel that it is a states' right issue and that the people of the state should determine what their marriage laws are. Or she could have said, yes, I do agree with it. It is a civil rights issue. And as there was discrimination against race back in the 60s, you know, the new discrimination is against, you know, heterosexual and, you know, gay people. And therefore, in America, we should not have discrimination. She could have went either way, and she would be Miss USA.
Wow, right.
So,
yes.
My advice to everyone, answer the question directly. Do not editorialize. Don't have an agenda. Answer it. Now, once you get the crown on your head, you can editorialize all day long, but get the crown first.
What if you get asked a question and your mind goes blank? You have no idea where to go with it. You just... Are
we talking interview or on-stage question?
Oh, on-stage question.
Okay. Well, if that happens...
Either, actually.
Well, let me talk about interview first. in interview competition, if they ask you a question and you draw a blank and you just don't know the answer, just say you don't know. Just simply say, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with that, or I don't know. Because a judge will see if you're BSing. They will see it. Okay? And so I would say it's better to do that, and no judge wants to screw you around. A judge, judges are not paid. You need to remember that. They volunteer their time. And no one is going to drive for hours or get on an airplane or take off work to try and screw a girl around. That's not why they're there. In most cases, they'll say, oh, I'm sorry, and keep moving on to another question. In on-stage question, that's a little bit different because you give one question and you got one opportunity to do it, to answer it. If you're not familiar or if you don't have a clear answer, you can say, well, I'm not as familiar with that, but my opinion is this. You can always state an opinion because at the end of the day, it's not about how smart you are. It's about having an opinion on something. Now, if it's your platform, that's very different. That's
right.
very different. If you or what your profession is, for example, if you are a nurse and you can't state an opinion on healthcare, Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, whatever you want to call it, there's a problem. If you are a teacher or getting your master's degree in education, and if you don't have an opinion on education reform, or you don't have an opinion on no child left behind, there's a problem.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Okay. Right. If you are a pharmacist and you don't have an opinion on the prescription drug plan in America, problem. So if it's your platform or if it's your profession, you better be on top of it, because then at that point the judge can dock you points for it because it's on your resume and you should be able to talk about it.
Great advice. So important for people to know.
Oh, sure.
So what advice would you give to people wanting to enter their very first pageant?
Okay. I think it's very important that you go into it really being clear on why you're doing it. I do what's called a strategy session all the time. A strategy session is not a training session. A strategy session is one of two things. It's for a girl who has never competed before, and she's trying to figure out, okay, I watch them on TV, my girlfriend wants some money, my other friend went on a trip, I want to do it. And so, we get it right the first time because by me evaluating her, interviewing her, looking at her skills, we determine what is the best pageant for her. So, that's the first thing. The second thing is, why are we doing it? I feel that there are three reasons to do a pageant, okay? One is for personal development. Some parents feel that their daughter or their son or whatever is very shy, and therefore they just need some self-confidence, and so they're doing it. Don't really care if they win or not. Winning is great. It'd be nice for them to do that, but at the end of the day, they want confidence. Another one is scholarship. A lot of pageants and competitions give scholarships, be it an in-kind scholarship to a certain school, be it monetary scholarship to the school you go to, or performing arts and acting. Like the one competition, I went to the World Championships 3 weeks ago, and the New York Conservatory of Acting gave away a $35,000 scholarship. Millennium Dance Complex out of Illinois, which is a premier dance school, gave out over $30,000 in scholarships as well. So scholarships comes in many forms.
Wow, right.
So that's the second reason. And the third reason is that if you want to get into the modeling, talent, performing arts, entertainment industry. Now, mind you, say it's not that you can't get a little bit of both. Look at Halle Berry. Look at Vanessa Williams. A lot of these stars have come out of pageants. Yes. And so you need to be clear because what you're trying to accomplish is going to determine what pageants you should start off with. So that's the big advice that I give to someone who's never done it before.
And how many people go into pageantry with that clear of, knowing what it is that they want out of it?
Very rare. Very rare.
It makes a difference.
It does make a difference. Normally a girl, and this is what I found, normally a girl competes for a year before she kind of goes, and it happens for one of two reasons. The girl gets frustrated because she's not winning, or the parents is like, okay, I'm dishing out this money, and I'm not seeing any kind of results. I always say, well, results is just not getting the crown, because it's the opinion of 5 people we don't know. Right. Results is what you see on that stage. But if you're seeing your daughter, not being able to be compared to the girls that are winning, then that means that you need to get some more information, you need to get some education, you need to get some coaching, you need to figure it out. And a lot of times you got to hire a professional to do it. So
you feel all contestants can benefit from having a coach?
Oh, without question. Well, okay, let me put it this way. If a young lady says that she wants to go to the Olympics for gymnastics, what does she do?
Right, exactly. That's true.
If a guy tells me that he wants to one day play at the U.S. Open or Wimbledon in tennis, what does he do?
Right.
Now, do you need a coach to make it to Miss America, Miss USA? No, not really. But you'll have an easier time if you do, and it all depends on what state you come out of, too. All states are not created equal. If you go back and you look at Miss America, Miss USA, Miss United States, there are certain states that make the cut every year, every other year. Texas, California, Virginia, Florida, Illinois, those are big pageant states.
Right.
And the reason why? Because girls are prepared. They understand what it is to be coached, and it is a sport. Another thing, you asked me earlier what sets me aside from some other coaches. One, I'm a man, and most coaches are female, even though there are some good men coaches out there, okay? The second thing is that as a man, I think like a man in the sense of it's a sport. It is a sport. You are competing. Understand that.
Very true. Exactly.
You are competing. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have friends and you can't be nice. I like it when my girls who compete with each other, I never say against each other. They compete with each other. I like it when they go to a pageant together and they sit together in the dressing room and support each other and all of that, because it makes the experience better. And believe it or not, when you compete with friends, you compete better.
Right.
Compete better. Because your motivation's there, you support each other, and then you're both competitive. Right. When I would compete, I used to get my best friend. He lives out of Florida. I'm a former Mr. Illinois. He's a former Mr. Florida. We're the best of friends. I remember one time we went to a national pageant together, and I said, okay, if you win, you're buying lunch, or you're buying breakfast the next day, and if I win, I'll do it, and lucky to say, I bought breakfast.
Yay for you!
Yeah, but he was my second runner-up. But anyway, with that being said, you have to go in the right mind frame, and really understand why you're doing it and what you want to accomplish, and then take the steps to do so. Now, not to say, and let me put a shout out to some of the smaller states, girl from Rhode Island, one Miss Rhode Island, one Miss USA, and one Miss Universe. So let me just put it out there that you don't have to be from a big pageant state to do well, but when you go to a state that's not as big of a pageant state, your level of experience don't have to be the same as when you're in Florida, Illinois, Texas, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia,
sure.
Those kind of states.
What about the most seasoned competitors, people who have won big titles in the past but are competing again? Would you recommend that they also have a coach?
Well, yes and no. There's a young lady that I know. She is a Mrs. contestant. She had won the Mrs. State title for Mrs. America, Mrs. United States, Mrs. International, and Mrs. Galaxy. In the Mrs. pageant, those are the big four.
Yes.
Okay. And she has won her state title for all four of them. And if she's watching this, she knows I'm talking about her. Okay. So, and I've had the opportunity to work with her a little bit. And so I'm thinking, okay, now she's doing, she's going to so kill me. Now she's doing what I call like Miss Kumquat, and Miss Blossom Fest and all these other stuff. And I'm thinking to myself, you have made top 10 at the premier pageants. When do you want to say when? There's nothing else for you to prove. So in that kind of situation, I always kind of go, come on, you got to know when to say when. It's not like she did all those other pageants and then graduated to the big ones. She won the big four right off the break. So in that respect, I kind of want to have a different conversation. But for the seasoned girls, once you got it down, for example, I have a girl now that I'm working with that had been to Miss America, and now she's going to go to Miss USA. Mm-hmm. And that's a switch. So when you're making a switch in wardrobe, the modeling at Miss America is different than the modeling at USA. It's not hugely different, but it is different. Right. Then they hire a coach it's more consulting than coaching, where we're making the shift in hair and makeup, we're making the shift in body, we're making the shift in clothes, we're making the shift in competition style. So if they're seasoned, it's really not a whole lot to learn. Now, if you're going from Miss USA to Miss America, that's different, because now you got to have a platform if you don't already have one. And you must train that. You know, you also need a talent. So if you haven't been dancing a lot, then now we need to train your talent. So, you know, certain pageants, moving to certain pageants is easier. Moving from one pageant to another pageant can be harder. So it just kind of all depends on what you're doing. But for a seasoned girl, that's when they need to get a coach or a consultant.
Good to know. Well, now when contestants are competing, you know, you can help them in the areas of interview and gown and all of that. But when they're on stage, they have this sort of star power, this charisma that comes from them. How do you, I mean, can you teach that as a coach? Okay. Or, you know, how can you develop that?
Yes. Yes, there are two or three things. First of all, I got another quote for you. Are you ready?
All right, I'm ready.
Okay.
I'm ready.
What you think is what you project. Okay? So what I mean by that is, if you're thinking, I'm fabulous, you know, I'm a diva, okay, I love this dress and you should love it too, your energy is going to come out. You know, in talent, you know, even if you're not the greatest dancer, you need to be thinking, I got this. For this dance, I'm technically proficient. You're going to enjoy this because I enjoy doing it. Whatever you think up here is what you're going to put out. So that's the first thing. Now, as far as teaching a young lady who doesn't have that natural it factor, and a lot of girls who do very well don't, I teach girls her mental cues, and we practice that. So when you walk to this X, you're thinking diva. When you walk to this X, you're thinking Southern Belle. I actually get in the mirror and I go, give me a diva look. And we work on that. And we literally choreograph it. You know, show me your best hair flip. And we work on that. When you watch Miss Venezuela, Miss Puerto Rico, Miss Colombia, and all those Latin American girls, and my mother's from Central America, so I got that Latin America thing down. When they do the hair flip and the snap turns and all of that, that doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. I can tell you, I practice with my girls like 30 minutes just on hair flip and projection to make sure that it all comes together, because when a girl fakes it, it looks awful. So the most important thing, if you are a type of girl that don't have that natural it thing, get in the mirror and determine your looks. This is my diva look. This is my come like me look. This is my I'm sultry look. You know, whatever you're trying to project, you need to know what it is. And so you literally practice it in the mirror. The last session that I do with a girl, or next to last, depending on how experienced she is we do facials. We do what I call projection points. I don't do it in the beginning, because when you're learning something, the brain is thinking neck down. Your choreography, your blocking, your pivoting, your walking, your stride, your strut, all of that. They're thinking of all of that. You're not going to get this. Okay, once the brain has got this down, neck down, and you go into what I call muscle memory, then we start talking about your mental cues and your what I call facial choreography. You know, what are we doing? You know, girls that just wing it, you should never wing anything, ever, ever, ever. Never wing it. Well, when I go out there, I'll just do it. No, it doesn't work that way. Now, once I've been with a girl a while and she's seasoned, I'll say to her, okay, what is our projection points? What are we doing? Well, Kyle, I'm going to do this here, and I'm going to do this there, and I'm going to do that there. I have them run it for me once, make sure they got it, and then for the rest of the rehearsal, I don't need to see it because they're seasoned enough to do it. But if you're new, if you don't do it in practice, muscle memory is going to kick in, you're going to get nervous, and you're not going to do it.
Right. Oh, yeah, yeah. Being a teacher, I know all about the muscle memory. So
there you go.
Exactly. Exactly. Great tips. Great advice. Now, what if someone wants to coach with you? Do you travel around do you do the pageant circuits, travel around for coaching, or is it basically in person, or do you phone coach, or can you Skype?
Yeah, I do everything. Actually, I was just coaching a talent routine before I got here, while I was almost late. Hence, you know, my uncombed hair and a polo shirt, you know.
You look fabulous.
You know, my initial thing, I was going to wear my cute little trademark bow tie and actually.
Oh, yes, yes.
And, you know, DC traffic is horrible.
That's
So
what I
I'm literally running in the doors, you know, trying to make this interview. So everyone, please forgive me. I would normally spruce up for you. But if someone wants to reach me.
You look great.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm an old man. I'm going to be 50 in a couple of years, if you can believe that.
No way. Never would have guessed it.
Yeah. If someone wants to reach me, my website it's very easy to remember, www.weproducewinners.com. And that's winners with an S because we produce many winners. You can hit me up on Facebook at facebook.com/pageant coach. Or you can email us at clients@weproducewinners.com, or you can order my book. Let me do it again. Which is called Producing Winners, Your Pathway to the Crown. There's also a Facebook page on that, and you can reach me via that. And I will say this, if anyone mentions this show when they order their book, I will do a personally autograph and do a free 30-minute strategy session on Skype or FaceTime. I will do that for your audience.
Awesome.
But they have to mention you, though. They got to mention you.
Okay, and we will definitely make sure that they do that.
Outstanding.
Wow, that is fabulous. Thank you for offering that. And thank you so much for joining me today. You are incredible. I loved all of the great advice you gave on pageants, on modeling. Loved seeing your book. Loved talking to you. Thank you so much for joining me.
Not a problem. And Stephanie, hit me up in my inbox and I will send you an autographed copy.
Oh, I'm so excited. Yay, thank you. I will definitely do that. Thank you.
Everyone have a winning day, and you can accomplish anything. Just believe in yourself.
Great advice. Love that. And thanks to all of the viewers for tuning in. Be sure to hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.